Hi there, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'll just give you a wee couple of minutes just to head into the call. Okay. Okay, folks, so good afternoon. Thanks for attending today's webinar. Today's session will be led by Amy. Amy is the founder of Retail Huddle and Scale with Wholesale Academy. Amy's got over 20 years experience as a retail buyer for some of the leading brands such as Tesco, M&S and Next. Today's session will focus on discovering exactly what buyers want to hear. The session will last approximately about 30 minutes or just over, and you have the opportunity to ask any questions that you have burning inside. Depending on what software you're using, you'll have the option to put it into the question tab or the chat function, which is just up to your right hand side. So it should either be two wee squares that look like a speech bubble or the square with a question mark in it. So fire your questions away there and Amy will get round to them towards the end of the session. But I don't want to take up any more of your time, so I hope you thoroughly enjoy the session today and I'll hand you over to Amy.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Hayley. Just checking that everyone's got access to the chat function. That's probably a question for Hayley, not the viewers. So yeah, just let me know if they've got access to the chat function, because I think it's always nice to sort of introduce everyone to one another. But anyway, thank you, Product Guru, for having me. I absolutely love doing these things. I've had the pleasure of doing it with you before, and also we have just recently collaborated on our Retail Huddle Live event, which was a really exciting thing where Product Guru gave the opportunity for 6 brands to come and pitch in front of retail buyers live at our Retail Huddle. And that was a really, really exciting collaboration. So we're looking forward to doing more things like that together as well. So just to, hopefully you can all see the screen. Let me know if you can't, but you know, Hayley, you did a great job of introducing me to your community. I do help brands to transform creativity and their passion into retail success. And as a former retail buyer, as you heard from Hayley, I've worked for M&S, Next and Tesco during my 20-year buying career. I focused on helping brands to approach, pitch and sell to retailers. And that's what I tend to specialise in. You may have seen me in some of these places. You may have seen me on Channel 4 earlier this year on the 4-part series, the Secrets of the Supermarket Buyers, being interviewed by Denise Van Outen there. If you missed it, you can stream it. Actually, I was really nervous about it in the lead up to the airing, and I don't like watching myself back, so let me know what you think. I'm a regular on the stage of trade shows like Top Drawer. This year you'll find me at Autumn Fair as well. They've booked me for 4 segments, so hopefully I'll see some of you somewhere along my travels, particularly this September, which is a busy one for us. And you can obviously follow us there. So I promise to keep that short, and want to welcome you to the Pitch Your Way to Success.
Apologies, Amy, sorry to interrupt. So a couple of people are saying that they're having a wee bit of difficulty hearing you. I'm just double checking if that's just the same or if it's maybe just one or two.
Okay.
If anybody's having any difficulty, can you just pop it into the chat, or is it just maybe one or two people be having difficulty?
Just let me know if it's more than one. It's usually like
saying it's a little bit quiet.
Can everyone hear me?
They struggling to hear.
Struggling to hear?
Yep.
Okay. Let me just check my mic.
Oh, apologies.
Hold on, let me just check my audio settings, because it should have connected automatically to the microphone. I've changed my microphone settings.
Go. Is that any better for folk?
Is that any
That,
better for anybody?
no, 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 no. Oh, goodness
Uh,
me.
Talking, is that better for anybody? Just if you can drop it quickly into the chat for us so we don't lose time. What about that? That's another setting. Can you hear me now? Is that better for anybody, or was the previous one better?
Yeah, I
Tell me.
feel some people are saying it's better. Some people, yeah, that seems to be better.
Better.
Better, yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
And the
that seems.
microphone.
Sorry,
Admit the
Amy.
fact. No problem. I know that when that happens, you've just got to adjust your microphone settings. So I've done that. I'm not technical, but I'm proud of myself for doing that. So that's brilliant.
To go.
All right. So I'll just carry on talking for a little bit. Oh, somebody's got a thumbs down. Ah, somebody's got a thumbs down. Lots of thumbs down.
A bit of a mix because some people saying it's fine, other people saying it's not. Um, yeah, I think it's a bit of a mix.
Yeah. Okay. What about now? Is that even better, or is that worse?
Mm,
Trina's still saying it's not. Some saying it's okay. Some are thumbs up, some are thumbs down. I don't know what to do, Hayley.
I know that
Um,
I can hear you perfectly. I feel like I don't know why it's not helping for other people.
it says
Um,
automatic. I've got it on automatic as well. It says automatically adjust my mic volume. I can report audio issues, but I'm assuming you don't want me to do that midway through.
no, I think everyone, well, most people are saying it's fine. It's just maybe just to speak a little louder. Apologies, Amy. I'm not asking you to shout at us.
All right, I will speak louder.
Perfect.
Uh, But my microphone is literally, I mean, you can't see it on the screen, but it's literally that much away. So I don't usually have problems. Look, if it becomes a real problem, just stop me, someone, and then I'll try and adjust something again. But we will end with a Q&A. So hopefully, do please ask questions, particularly in the chat. Hayley will help me to moderate that and I will answer as many as I can. But during our time together, I really want to draw back the curtains of what buyers actually want to hear and give you a bit of a structured framework, actually, of what you should be thinking about, um, including in your pitch to really set yourself up for success. I'm sort of taking the angle of kind of a meet the buyer meeting, and so that's what we're sort of going to be focusing on today. So I'm really hoping that people can hear me. If you can't, it's not going to be very nice for you. So please do carry on reaching out if something changes in the audio. So let's start with a simple question. What comes to mind when you hear the word pitch? This is why I asked if you've got access to the chat, because it's quite nice for these things to be interactive. Take a second and be really honest. What pops into your mind? Pop it in the chat. Tell me what you're thinking. Share it with the community that's attending. And use the chat to build connections. Share your links with the answer to my question and connect with each other. Let me
Can you
know.
see
What
their answers, Amy?
I can't. I think I've been switched off from the chat. So
Okay. So the
you might
people
have to
come back,
come
people
out.
have come back
Yeah.
and said, so getting somebody to say yes, tell me about your business slash products in a few minutes, and
Yes.
to communicate effectively their message.
Yeah. And that's all great. That's great. But there's a lot of founders that imagine that it is a really high stakes conversation. It's high pressure moment, like what we see on Dragon's Den, stone faced panels staring back at you. It's not like that. Some people even think, what jumps to mind is a sleazy car salesman pushing product, that the sort of high pressure tactics. And it's all about the hard sell, and it's not. Sometimes people even sort of think to me that, it's their one and only shot. It's their make or break moment where everything has to be perfect or you lose the opportunity entirely. If that sounds familiar to anybody, that myth that we're being sold to about pitching and selling, that's all over our feeds, we're constantly consuming it. It's not how we pitch to retail buyers. And even when you Google, how to pitch, you'll come up with so many things that are great for pitching to investors, but not necessarily pitching to retail buyers. Pitching isn't about the pressure. It isn't about, building the perfect. It's not a sales pitch. It's not pushy. It's not a high performance. In fact, I really want you to think about it as a conversation, an intentional conversation that leads to opportunities and sales for you both. I'm going to say that again, for you both. Okay? That just there should give you the confidence. The opportunities are for you both. And the only purpose of a pitch is to start a conversation, not close the sale. I'll say that one more time. The only purpose of a pitch is to start a conversation, not close the sale. So when you think about your product guru meetings, you've got, what is it, Hayley? Is it 3 minutes to pitch? There's a lot of information to get in there, but you've got to think about the right information. You've got to spark curiosity, build relationship, build trust. That's all the sort of art and science of pitching to retail buyers. And it's never been a better time, I promise you, to pitch for challenger brands to pitch to retailers. Right now, they are slower than you when it comes to innovation, creating noise, building communities. They are slow, they are clunky, they have lots of red tape, and nothing in retail is slow. So they need to move fast, and they know that they need to bring brilliant products in front of their customers, brilliant brands and products to their stores that their customers are scrolling on social media, they're discovering in pop-up shops, they are part of other communities, and they want a piece of that pie. So I really want you to use that information that that the only purpose of your pitch is to start a conversation. But I really want you to use this information to help you to reframe selling. You're not showcasing, you are showcasing opportunities for retailers to win at the retail game. You're not doing them a favour. They're not supporting small businesses. They want a piece of the pie. Okay, so your pitch should combine the art of your unique value proposition with the science of what buyers want to hear from you. It's not a wing it moment. A pitch is not your long-winded backstory and nothing else. It's not a sales spiel, but it does need to be intentional and it does need to spark curiosity. And don't worry, you are definitely not on Dragon's Den. You definitely don't need to be one of those sales gurus. You just need, you need to be yourself, but you need to be your best self. And your pitch should leave the buyer wanting more, not running for the door. Think of your pitch as a deliberate guide, a well-crafted introduction of the journey that keeps the buyers curious and engaged while allowing you to control the narrative, guiding them towards the next step, whatever that next step might be after the 3 minutes, but it has to be with ease, confidence, clarity, and conviction. Clarity comes from being clear about what you're bringing to the table. Confidence comes from you knowing your stuff. Knowledge is power. Confidence will come from understanding retail beyond your own product category. Buying has changed a lot in retail head offices, so you need to really understand retail from the shoes of a retail buyer. And conviction goes beyond telling your wonderful brand story, which you're also good at, but you need to think about, like any kind of marketing that we do in our businesses, we need to think about what's in it for them. What plays that big part? That plays a big part in your pitch over what's in it for you. Can you all hear me? I am just doing a little stop check. Is it okay? Can everyone hear me? Hayley, is everything okay? Good. I've got some thumbs up.
Lots of thumbs up this time.
Yeah. That fear of, am I speaking silently? Anyway, so I wanted to sort of share a bit of a frameworks with you that explains a little bit better what I'm talking about: clarity, confidence, and conviction. Particularly the conviction bit. It really does go beyond, your own brand story. It's what is in it for them. And let me explain that by using the truths framework, which is the foundation of every retail buyer pitch. So truths, got tangible, relevant, unique value, timely, holistic, and storytelling. So let's dive into the framework and go a little bit deeper. Tangible. Now, this is the science bit that backs up your beautiful founder story, your lovely, brand story. The buyer wants concrete evidence, whether that's data, insights, or any kind of social or market proof that proves the value of your product in a retail setting. Evidence that your product is wanted by your ideal customers, that you're building something that customers really love, they want, what do they come back for, and the sort of questions that I'll be thinking as a buyer is, how is this product going to offer my market or my customers something different? How is it going to help us to stand out? How is it going to help me drive my sales, hit my margin targets? I want to stand out from the competition. I want to be doing something different. I don't want, the same brands. I want something unique. I want to excite my customer. I want to drive footfall into my store. If it's a store, if it's online, I want to make sure that I've got something that differentiates myself from my competitors. Whether it's hitting my sales targets, hitting my margin targets, driving market share growth, I want to know that that product is going to be doing something that's tangible for me. So things that you can drop in really nicely are statistics that are right under your noses usually. Big messages like, this product achieved a 35% sell-through in similar stores, or in the first 60 days of launch, outperforming the category by X percentage. Or we can say, our top 5 best-selling products take 50% of the sales, and here's why our customers love it so much, and lead into a testimonial. So it can be as small as that if you haven't got anything big. It can be anything tangible from what you're doing on social media, how much traffic you're driving, how many sales you're driving, what your sales growth looks like year on year, what your performance is like in your own business. You don't have to give away big, you don't have to give away secret numbers, but anything that's really tangible, anything that looks really big, that shows, what, you are the next big thing, or we really need you because a particular category isn't working very well for us, or we need some newness in this area. And even if you think there's a particular trend, it can be a marketing. It could be a marketing trend, or it can be a market trend. So any kind of consumer behaviour that's shaping the way that retail that they're shopping. As long as it as long as you've got something that's tangible, it's really nice to drop it into the conversation, because it just adds that value. It builds that value proposition that they're looking for from you. And that leads me really nicely into relevancy. It's got to be relevant, relevant, relevant. You only have a short amount of time to capture their curiosity, to make them think, right, I need beyond 3 minutes with these guys. I really want to get to know them, and you've really sparked their curiosity. So your opening pitch, that 3-minute meet the buyer event, or an elevator pitch at a trade show, whatever it may be, you need to keep it relevant. Long-winded backstory. Don't fill your 3 minutes with your long-winded founder story. My top tip here is that you really need to step out of the shoes of a brand founder and into the shoes of a retail buyer. What do they want to hear from you first? Research is your best friend here. Look at what good looks like in your category. Look at the wider retail industry. Understand not only what customers are doing, thinking and feeling at this time, but also how buyers are buying your type of product in your category, and then present it in that way. Build your proposition to meet those goals, gaps, opportunities. For example, if there's been massive market growth in the, I think of what a few things that you've got going on, product gurus in the pet industry, or the wellness or beauty market growth. If there's been some really great trajectory, the buyer might be looking for newness. They might be constantly looking for things that they want to evolve their range with. So if there's any kind of new and innovative products that are coming out, then they're going to want to know about it, and you're going to want to present your product like it is the next big, like it is something that they will be interested in. Just like B2C customers, if you make it easy for them, you'll be super useful to them. I want super useful suppliers. I want people who are going to make my life easy for me. So stay close to the competition, live and breathe your market, understand the wider retail landscape, look at consumer trends and how your product will fit with their market, and then align your opportunities and gaps that you've identified. It's all about positioning. Honestly, trust me. If you think you're in a crowded market, don't feel, oh, you probably don't want another candle brand. It is all about positioning. It's all about positioning, which really nicely leads me on to your unique value, because that's the key to your positioning. Your key objective here is to demonstrate what sets you apart and why they should choose you over your competition. And we all know that shelf space is limited, so to bring a new product in, they are likely to they're likely to need to take a new product out. So highlighting the unique selling points, isn't enough. You don't want to just highlight the unique selling points of your product. You really need to demonstrate the unique value that your brand brings to the market as a whole. What makes your product different from what's already available in my stores? That's what I'll be thinking. I'll be thinking, questions I'll have in my mind is, why should we choose you, or why should we choose your product over a similar one or from an established brand? So if you can demonstrate, going back to the tangible bit, if you can demonstrate any kind of growth or traction, or any exciting data behind it, they'll start thinking in their mind, it's like, well, that sounds like it's outperforming an established brand that I've got, so maybe I need to try something new. And that's how we think, that's how buyers think. They really, really want, it's all about sales, it's about building this beautiful commercial range for their product. But of course, they want things that are going to sell, they want things that customers want. So if you can demonstrate that through your unique value proposition, like I said, it's all about positioning. It's all about what value does your brand bring to the market. And I always like to think of the unique value, just to explain it a bit better, because I always get asked this. So I always like to think of unique value as having two parts, right? So number one is the unique selling point of your product, your actual product, your unique selling points. What's exciting? What do the customers love, and what benefits does it bring to your customers, and what makes them keep coming back to buy that product from you? That's exciting, because you're delving deep into what makes your products unique and why your customers love it so much. So that's easy. You can lead that with testimonials, you can talk about the benefits of your products, and talk about all the passionate stuff that led you to discover and build that product range. And then it's your UVP, which is the unique value proposition. This goes beyond that, and you need to talk about the value of your brand, the value that your brand brings to the market. The buyer is going to need to remove a product to get your product on the shelf, so it's really important that you're able to articulate as a whole that we are a brand and we're doing great stuff, and here are our great products, and this is why our customers love them so much. The next one is timely. Where can, if you can demonstrate, again, another thing to think about, that where can your product fit into a customer trend, for example? So when you think about the ever-evolving retail calendar, and you think about how many different, awareness days and events and so many things that have been thrown into the retail calendar now, cultural events, we're now getting, Eid and Diwali, and it's not just, Q4 is no longer just about Christmas. It's, all those other things that bring, cultural retail. Diwali is in there. Halloween is becoming bigger. All those sorts of things. So you think about, if you can really fit your product into a certain brand, or build it into a promotional or marketing campaign that that's happening, or that they might be looking at. It's a really great work. It's a really, really great thing if you can build it in. So it could be that something it's really timely. For example, I was speaking to Tesco's a few weeks ago, and they were talking about like the Dubai chocolate trend, for example, right? So independents had moved much, much quicker. They had far less red tape. They're not clunky like the big retailers, and it's a really interesting time. It's a really interesting thing for them. They really wanted it, but they've got too much red tape to develop a version of that product. So when they're looking for market growth, they really want that innovative products that their customers are looking at on TikTok, on social media. And by the time they replicate that trend, it's gone. So they're really looking to capture that from independent brands who can move much, much quicker, who have less red tape. So that's just one example of being timely, I suppose. But if there are any seasonal trends or upcoming events that your products particularly fit into, it can make it more interesting for the buyer beyond, we're just another candle brand, right? So really think about that positioning. I promise you, it's all about positioning. Right, holistic. I've got something that's wrong on the slide. Apologies, but this one is holistic. So what I mean by that is I really want you to think about providing a holistic view of your product, right? How can it look in stores, across channels? Look at their brand. What are they doing? What do their distribution channels look like? And how does your product fit in with that? Because when you get into a retailer, you don't just want to be in the retail. You want to be part of their entire business network. You want to be part of all of their channels. You want to be part of all their promotions, and you want to be in their marketing campaigns, right? So this is knowledge. Knowledge is power. So if you can sort of see what they're doing, and then you can demonstrate, how your product fits with their market. This is what will really set you up for success. So think about marketing, think about promotions, think about events, think about pop-up shops. The buyer will want to know that once you've gained a listing with them, you're not going to put your feet up, light a cigar, and think, job done. As a retail buyer, and I know, when I was buying brands for Next, I know that I don't want to shoulder the efforts of growing your brand for you. It's a partnership. And so you must be able to demonstrate that in your proposition, that goes for independent retailers as well. Everyone's buying differently. Retail is tougher. We've got to be unique. We've got to be fast moving. We've got to really show our value. In this, retail packaging is another one to really think about. It's an area a lot of founders miss, and it ends up costing them the pitch or costing them a lot of money because they haven't really thought about this. So really think about, again, this is something you can have up your sleeve. It's not necessarily for a 3-minute pitch, but I just want you to think about whether it's relevant for your product area to consider in your pitch. But think about your primary packaging. That's the packaging that's customer sees on the shop floor, and then think about your secondary packaging, and then your tertiary packaging. I think a lot of brands miss the secondary and tertiary because they don't believe that they need to think about it at this stage. But you really do need to build it into your costs because sometimes it can end up costing a lot. So do think about those things as well. I think the buyers, just to put that into perspective of, how buyers buy now in 2025 from when I used to be a buyer, things have changed. A buyer's role in a retailer has evolved so much now. It goes beyond building a commercial product range for their ideal customers, and they now have to consider the whole value chain before making any decisions. And if secondary and tertiary packaging is going to affect how they can handle, store, deliver product, it's definitely a deciding factor. And I've been speaking to a lot of retail buyers recently, and it's definitely a big deciding factor. So arm yourself with that information, and you keep yourself relevant, and make sure that you understand retail from their shoes. Storytelling, that human connection. Contrary to the belief that retail buyers only make decisions using logic, actually they are quite likely to fall in love with a founder story just as much as a B2C, a customer would at your pop-up shop or market. Your story is what sets you apart, and you do need to articulate that both to a retail buyer and of course the end user. That makes you memorable. It makes that human connection. It's what customers are looking for. Retailers know that. So I really don't want you to think that you need to leave that out because they only make decisions with logic. They absolutely don't. They need to know that. What's the big vision, mission? Where are you going with this? Have you got a bigger story to tell? What's the bigger picture? How can your brand and product help me to sell more? What's that brand story? How did you come to be? What led you to start your product business, what led you to create these products. So all of that's going to be really, really important. I would just say, caveat that with, keep it relevant. Circle back to that, keep it relevant. So if your backstory is a really long one, like I started my business on my mum's kitchen table and she used to help me pack orders and drive me to the post office, that kind of storytelling will have the buyer yawning and running for the door. So I really want you to think about, within that story, how do you articulate that in a way that, tells them about your deep passion and what led you to start your brand, but also keeps it really relevant and that what's in it for them piece, keeps it compelling for them. So yeah, bit of a caveat. When you're thinking about your pitch, I want you to step out of the shoes of a brand founder and into the shoes of a retail buyer. As a retail buyer, I'm highly creative, I'm forward thinking, and I'm always looking for the next new thing that will excite my customers, create impact, in stores, across my channels, wherever I trade. And with all this art must come the science. So I'll be thinking commercially about how I'm going to meet my targets and my sales goals. If I'm the founder of an independent retailer, think about what's going to keep them awake at night, right? It's really tough right now. So think about, what's going to keep them awake at night. If I'm an independent retailer, I'm going to be thinking about, surviving my competitors that are on my doorstep, attracting customers, driving footfall, standing out, converting customers. I want to make those sales. I want to think about loyalty and advocacy. So I really want you to think about, the proposition like a retailer. Talk about promotional activity, talk about doing an in-store pop-up shop, or think about innovative ideas. Even if you think they're out of your reach, don't, because they want innovation right now. And if I'm a buyer for large retailers, I'm literally running a business within a business. So I'll be thinking about my department targets. As buyer, I look after gross margin as well as sales goals and that whole value chain that I talked about. And I'll be building product strategies to help me make more incremental sales, strategically planning promotions, marketing campaigns to achieve my sales targets. So if you can walk in with some ideas, and that's why I said talk about promotions and marketing, if you can talk about ideas or spark curiosity or spark ideas, it's going to make you memorable, and it's going to make you feel like, yeah, I want you in my store because I want to be part of that. So the other thing that I'll be targeted with, particularly from big retailer, I'll be targeted with market share growth. And most importantly, I'll be thinking about, selfishly, I'll be thinking about how I'm going to get in line for my next promotion, pay rise, or my bonus. And through tough times like they are right now, I'm going to be thinking about how am I going to keep my head off the chopping board. So same stress as an independent retailer, just a different shovel. But you need to think about how am I going to balance that art and science? How does that buyer think? And just try and step into their shoes a little bit. Be yourself. I've said this before. Be your best self. Don't worry about, it's not a performance, but you can be your best self with a great practiced, perfect pitch that is deliberately and intentionally taking the buyer through a journey. You're not going to make the sale in the first moment. You're definitely not going to make a sale in the first 3 minutes. So get that out of your head. But what you should be seeking from the Meet the Buyer event is a second conversation. That should be your goal, because the purpose of a first conversation, any first conversation, whether it be an interview for a job as you're in your career, whether you'd be pitching for investment, whether you are pitching to a retail buyer, the only purpose of the first conversation is to get yourself a second conversation. That is it. You are not going to close a deal in the first conversation. And if you may want to snapshot this is a little power pitch framework that you can use. This is, if you don't have a framework, it's not, if you don't have a framework, this is some guidance to help get you through a 3-minute pitch. Like any marketing campaign, the best pitch has an opening hook. The opening hook can come from your founder story, it can come from where you're going. So if you have a huge mission, it can come from where you're going, or it can just be where we are now. Again, keep it relevant. Think about that circle. Whatever is relevant, it should be your opening hook. Your USP and your UVP, I talked about that a lot. There is a difference, and you should absolutely talk about your products. That's really important. Then anchor that with your unique value proposition. The proof is the tangible bit in the truths framework. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about results, traction, successes, PR campaigns, social media, where you're stocked already. Anything that will make it really tangible for the buyer is a really clever thing to add. And then, of course, don't forget your call to action, right? So don't just end the pitch at 3 minutes and sit back and think, oh, I've done it. What do you want out of this, right? Do you want to give them samples? Do you want to get a second conversation in? Do you want to be invited to their head office? What is it that you want? You probably want all of those 3 things. So make sure that you articulate a really brilliant call to action so that that buyer can take that next step with you. You don't just want to pitch to them and leave it to that. And they are likely to say, "Give me your card, we'll get back to you." But actually, try and get something out of it. And the nice way, a nice call to action is one that creates conversations. I know you'll be time limited, so just really think about that call to action, and really think about how you can really capture something from them. Okay, don't let them walk away without at least giving you a meeting or something. And look, just to reiterate, I always talk about, if you follow me, you'll hear I say this a lot: simplify to amplify. I really mean it. Even in a pitch, I really want you to think about the 3 big things that you really want to get across. You've only got 3 minutes, so what are your 3 big messages? Have you heard of, if you've heard of the power of 3, you'll know what I mean. If you Google it, you'll understand. You'll see it. It's something that copywriters use. It's marketeers use. It's nothing new. It's not new to me. But why do things come in 3s? Well, there's something about 3 that makes a message memorable. 4 seems to be too much. 2 isn't quite enough, and 1, well, it's not a message. It's not memorable. So it's a powerful presentation technique. It makes what you're saying persuasive, memorable, and clear. Okay, don't forget those 3 things that we talked about: clarity, confidence, and conviction. That's what you really need to come across, in your pitch. Clarity is about helping the buyer instantly understand what you do, who's it for, and why it matters. Okay, if your messaging is muddy, if it's confusing, you overload your pitch with too much detail, the buyer will tune out. We're all human. We have to absorb too much information today. Confidence is the other thing. Confidence isn't really about being loud and polished at all. It's about making sure that your message and your value really lands with them. When you pitch with confidence, you show the buyer that you know your stuff, and that builds confidence in them about doing business with you. So if you've done your homework, you've armed yourself with market information beyond your category, and you really believe in your products, buyers they feed off your energy, by the way. They really do feed off your energy. Anyone you're talking to will always feed off your energy. If you're unsure, if you hesitate, they will feel that. If you're calm, if you're clear, you're grounded, they will lean in. Okay? Confidence builds trust in confidence, and confidence actually comes from clarity. So if you really know your stuff, you'll be able to confidently present it. And conviction, even. I'm looking over here because I've got a second screen. Conviction is what really shows the buyer, that you really believe in your product. It's the passion, the purpose, the belief in your product that it deserves a place on their shelves. It's not pushy, it's persuasive. And when you speak with conviction, buyers will take you seriously. Conviction builds belief, and conviction is also the other part that I talked about at the beginning, which is the tangible bit. So it's not just about your passion and purpose, but it's anchored with what's tangible, what's in it for them. Okay. So Be yourself, but be your best self. And you will have heard this advice. Just be yourself when you pitch. And yes, do be yourself, but be your polished self. Rehearse it, practice it, get clear on your message, get confident in your value, stay calm under pressure, and most importantly, stay in control of the conversation. Sometimes the buyers, if you're a buyer like me, they can get a bit, questions after questions. You just need to stay calm and stay in control of the narrative. Don't ramble, but land your pitch with impact. Look, as an extension of this masterclass, feel free to download a little guide from me. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Pitching to Retail Buyers. Hopefully that QR code works. If it doesn't, just ping me a message. I'm sure it does. But it's a great little guide just to tell you what collateral you will need, that you may need. And again, it just reiterates the really strong points that we've been going over. It goes through quite a lot, so it goes through a roadmap of how to pitch, and then it also sort of goes through collateral that you may need with you when you are pitching, particularly if you have only got a short amount of time, like 3 minutes. I regularly run boot camps, pitch your product boot camps. They are, a really, really clear guide of how to apply the truths framework to your pitch. Lots of examples, lots of tools, lots of strategies for building clarity, confidence, and conviction, and demystifying what different types of buyers think and how they buy their product range. So look, the next time I may run this might be a little bit later. It might be too late for you. So if there is enough, I'll leave that with you, Hayley. If there is enough interest, I'm very happy to come back and do a pitch your product boot camp for anyone that's taking part in your product guru sessions. If it helps them to, build, I'll leave that one with Hayley. Otherwise, you can again scan that QR code and be part of my next one. But if there is something that Product Guru, if you are taking part in one of their huddles and there's enough of you, I can come in and do that for you. And then just a little plug for an exciting project that I'm launching in collaboration with Westfield Shopping Centre this September. We're bringing amazing next generation brands like you to the centre, one of the highest footfall locations in the country with 30 million visitors per year. It's a no-brainer, so scan the QR code to learn more on that. You can take a snapshot of that page or visit collectivepopup.shop sign up. Without further ado, I hope that was useful.
Perfect, that was great, Amy. Thank you so much. There has been a couple of questions sent in, so I'll just read them out to you and you can obviously give your answers. So the first one was, what defines a challenger brand for retail or a procurement buyer?
So a challenger brand to me is somebody who's challenging an established brand, right? So I'll give you an example of that. So have you all heard of Who Gives a Crap? A company called Who Gives a Crap? Yeah, toilet roll. Yeah, I think they gave me a sample last time. No, I had a sample here somewhere. So Who Gives a Crap, right? So they are the most commoditized brand. Toilet roll is the most commoditized product that you have, right? Toilet roll. How are you going to make that different? And in the UK, the leading brand always has been, I think, Andrex, led with puppies, and then something else, and then I think Tesco's were up there as well. Now they came to the market just after COVID with a really different proposition. Okay, they are really exciting. They came with a different proposition. They were purposeful. They were purpose-led. They were more expensive than the leading brand, and literally within the first year of business, the first year of them hitting UK shelves, they didn't even have any listings. All of their business was D2C. Nobody really believed in them because they all just thought, yeah, okay, what's all this noise about? But in the first year of business, they hit £40 million turnover. Now that, to me, that's a really good example of a challenger brand. So they are challenging an already established market. They are challenging. They are now, I believe, the third biggest toilet roll brand in the UK. and they're just going from strength to strength. And they didn't even get their first listing until, I believe, 2 years into their journey in the UK, and that was with Waitrose. So yeah, that's challenge round.
Perfect. Thank you. The next one was buyers get hundreds of emails a week. How can you get yours to stand out? Is it an exciting subject line, or could you give any sort of examples?
Yeah, no, I would. I use the truth framework in everything that we do. So when I help brands to whatever collateral they're using to reach out to buyers, whether it's an email, yeah, it absolutely is a hook. That opening hook is really, really important. What is it that you're trying to tell them? What is it that you want them to pay attention to? You don't want to lead with your story, your brand story. It's not relevant unless it's something that's making a difference, or something that's leading your mission. So yeah, that opening hook, and I would say that this is probably one of the number one questions I get asked. Buyers don't answer emails, we're getting thousands and thousands of emails. I would say that have a structure. Okay, so have a structure in mind. You've got 4 sets of emails. This is outreach. This is business. This is prospecting. It comes with knockbacks. It comes with people not answering your emails, but you need to have a structure in your mind, right? So you send email 1. Day 7, you send email 2. It's kind of a follow-up of the first email. Just checking you got my message, and here are the key points. Okay, keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it relevant, keep it tangible. And then 7 days later, the third email. The third email is a little bit more pushy. It's send me 2 emails, understand you're busy, let me know if you want to talk. The fourth email goes another 7 days later. And that's the one that takes guts, right? Because it's almost very, very likely that they have opened your previous 3 emails. They either haven't got the time, they're either not looking at that product category, they're either just overwhelmed, they're busy people. I always used to have, so just to let you know, I always used to have a folder in my inbox for new suppliers that I knew that one day I would get back in touch with, okay, because I found something interesting, but I just didn't have the time right now. I would always respond, by the way, and most people would, I think. And so the fourth email is sort of I know that you haven't been able to answer my emails. I won't bother you again, but it's usually a huge apology, because an apology sort of triggers an emotion that you can't trigger in your outreach email. You can't trigger an email 2, and you probably wouldn't try this tactic in email 3. But when you get to email 4 and you sort of trigger this emotion of, huge apologies, I know you must be really busy. Oh my God, most of the time that fourth email gets an answer. Trust me. So most of the time that fourth email gets an answer because you're playing to that human emotion of, oh, I'm really sorry, apologies for reaching out, apologies for my cold email, I understand you must be busy, that kind of thing. So yeah, have a system and then put it to bed, and then put them through, once you've got to email 4, then put them on your CRM to contact another time, or put them in your CRM to contact for, when you next launch something, or when you want to let them know about an exciting opportunity or something, a new product launch or a new event.
Perfect. So this one's specific from
Tell
a
them what.
brand. They're asking about so they're a brand that manufacture tempeh, and they're asking about the SALSA certification. So would SALSA certification be sufficient to get our tempeh into supermarkets, or do they typically still require BRC? And on the back end of that, asking what retailers would you recommend a small business approach first before targeting the larger supermarkets?
You're going to have to, I'm not familiar. What is that? Just talk to me in.
So the SALSA certification, safe and local supplier approval.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I missed that there. That is necessary. Yeah. Is that what you're asking? Sorry, that is a necessary step to take.
Yeah, so they're saying, would certification be sufficient to get our tempeh into supermarkets, or would they typically require BRC?
They require a whole load of red tape. um, from my time of working with Tesco's and M&S, you know, it's a whole quality assurance department that works alongside the retail buyer. I wouldn't know the ins and outs specifically for your area, and I also never really dealt with food specifically. So yeah, I'm gonna say I don't know the answer specifically to that question, but I know that there's a whole QR team, you know, quality assurance team that will work alongside the buyer, and there's plenty more red tape that you have to go through, not just a certificate.
Perfect, thank you. One you probably get quite a lot. What's the best way to reach out to a retailer that's not part of events such as Product Guru? Would you recommend email, LinkedIn, phones, etc.? What would you say is the best to reach out?
Yeah, all of that, but I would also, you know, stalk them, you know, make sure that you're going to the same events as them, you know, whether it be trade shows or industry events. Get yourself known in the trade industry press as well. So I think a lot of small brands think about PR as, you know, consumer PR, but get yourself in the trade press because that's what they read. And if you start, you know, your name starts popping up in trade press, which is easier to get into, by the way, then you know they'll already know who you are before you contact them, and that always helps.
And the last question we've got here is, say you know the buyer you're going to meet in advance and you've done your research, would you recommend using some of the publicly available information to build your hook?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you should be using, you know, Google will be your best friend, AI will be your best friend. You know, obviously verify the information, but you absolutely should, yeah, be using public information to build your knowledge. I would say, not necessarily build your hook, but it depends what your product business does. What does your product business do? So yeah, it just depends on what angle you're coming at, right? So when you're building your hook, you either want to start the hook at the beginning, so what led you to start your business, somewhere in the middle, it could be where you're landed now, or it could be at the end. It could be your big mission. Okay, so there's three different points you can start your opening hook, and it really just depends on what you're doing. So, for example, if going back to the who gives a crap toilet roll example, they would always start their opening hook at the end because they've got this big mission that they want to achieve with their sales and their giving back to sanitary and all that kind of thing. So they always start theirs with the end because that's their big mission and they want people to jump on board with them. So it really depends on what your business is, as to where you start with your opening hook. And it could be something like a market trajectory figure, you know, so the X market is an upward trajectory and it's going to, you know, currently is 35 million and it's going to grow to, or 35 billion and it's going to and it's going to grow to 70 billion by 2035, for example. You know, that could be an opening hook, but I would keep it more personal to you rather than market data because you can always go into market data later.
I think we've got time for just one more, and it's, how do you find out when the category window's open for your category?
Um, you never do, actually, but this is why keeping abreast of what's going on in retail, understanding, living and breathing your category, um, you can gain a lot of information from the outside in. You can see, you know, you can see how things are trading. You can see when markdowns happen. You can see when, you know, if there's a particular retailer that you want to get into, if you're constantly keeping an eye on them and living and breathing them and their competition, you can see what their competition are doing. So, for example, you know, you want to get into retailer A, you would look at all of their competition, keep an eye on them, and see how they're trading that category. If they're bringing newness in, or they're doing something really exciting in that category, you can assume that the retailer that you want to get into will have some sort of level of FOMO. or will have some sort of level of pressure of actually I need to be doing something beyond them now. And that might be your time to go in and say, right, well, here's that's my positioning for you guys. So it's about living and breathing your market. It really is.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Amy. Thanks so much for your time, for taking the time to speak to everybody today. It was really insightful. I'm sure lots of the brands will benefit. I think you might get a few emails as well from some people with some burning questions.
Anybody
But yeah, so thank you again,
like
everyone who attended. Thanks again to Amy. I hope everybody enjoyed the session. We are hosting one more event slightly later in August with Leanne Combrink, and that'll be more of a focus on boosting the sales as well. But if you do have any further questions that I've not answered, please send them along, and I can obviously pass them along to Amy, and we can get the answer back for you. But I hope everybody has a lovely day. I hope you enjoy your holiday as well, Amy. Thank you so much. And have a lovely afternoon.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.